one thing that's kind of cool that has me excited is Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. This is the sequel to Ghost in the Shell. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, and to celebrate that, G Kids, who has become one of like the best anime distributors, they put out Miyazaki's Boy and the Heron, they did the re-release of End of Evangelion, they're putting Ghost in the Shell 2 back in theaters on the June 23rd, June 24th, and June 26th with a new 4K restoration. It's being shown, it's English dub, but also the original Japanese, but they've given it new subtitles. Like there's revised, updated subtitles that make it a little more accurate than the original. And it's really cool to see this film getting celebrated and to have the opportunity to see it in theaters, because it's a very interesting piece of anime history that kind of went overlooked in an interesting way. Like the original Ghost in the Shell is such a prototypical cyberpunk thriller anime. It's still a series that we talk about a lot. A sequel for that kind of thing was inevitable, but what Mamoru Oshii did with Ghost in the Shell 2 is a very unconventional approach to a sequel, that he's not just like chasing a trend, but really just telling a story that resonates with him, that fits in the broader Ghost in the Shell universe. So for instance, Ghost in the Shell's main character, Major Mitoku Kusanagi, she's kind of like relegated to a cameo in the sequel. The film focuses on Batu instead, and it tells this kind of cyberpunk mystery about a bunch of sex robots called gynoids that start killing their masters. And this should be something that should be impossible. The sex dolls shouldn't have personalities. They shouldn't be able to create a motive. So this is confusing a lot of people, and what seems to be the cause for this is that a hacker has artificially and illegally implanted personalities on these sex dolls, and with these personalities you see motives form, and it gets into the classic Ghost in the Shell idea of identity, humanity, control, and power that are so fascinating when recontextualized through technology. And Ghost in the Shell 2 does such an interesting job of exploring that, and it's a very different sequel, that it's almost more like interested in the philosophy behind these things rather than just big action sequences. This was a movie that took 5 years to put together, which is a little abnormal for an anime movie. It's the first and only anime film that's competed at Cannes for the Palme d'Or, which is really cool, I think. And some people have written this film off in the past as being like too pretentious for its own good. And admittedly, there are like a lot of high-minded things going on in this movie, although it still does have action sequences. Like there's some great Yakuza stuff and like hacker carnage going on. But there are really like big ideas going on here, and the film makes more and more sense the more that you see it. It kind of illuminates Mamoru Oshii's the rest of his filmography, like something like Angel's Egg, the Pat Labor movie, even his stuff on like Urusei Yatsura and Lupin III. All of that kind of makes more sense when you have the extra puzzle piece of Ghost in the Shell 2. And all of these films kind of work together, and it's just a fascinating approach to a sequel, that it really kind of feels like a mouthpiece for what Oshii has been interested in doing with anime, rather than just doing another Ghost in the Shell sequel for the sake of doing one. And more than anything, it's just cool that this film is back in theaters. Like, I've never seen it in a theater before. I'm excited to see it in a theater, and it's exciting to see these kind of niche projects get a second chance in modern re-releases. That this used to be something that was kind of only reserved for the best of the best anime movies, something that would be a surefire hit. And it's cool that Ghost in the Shell 2 is getting this treatment, that it can potentially reach a bigger audience than ever before, and that more people can kind of take it in and see what's going on in this movie. They just announced that a new Ghost in the Shell anime series is happening by Saiyan Saru, who did like the Scott Pilgrim anime, Devilman Crybaby, Inu-Oh. They're a really exciting company, and they should be doing some really cool things with the brand. Supposedly it's going to be like a more manga accurate anime adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. So with that new Ghost in the Shell series coming out, it's never been a better time to check out Ghost in the Shell 2 and just look at this kind of overlooked piece of anime past that's now celebrating 20 years and seeing this big swing as an anime sequel. This doesn't happen nearly as often enough, and it's cool that that is going on. So Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. In addition to Ghost in the Shell 2 celebrating its 20th anniversary, another very cool anime anniversary that's happening this year is Mobile Fighter G Gundam is celebrating its 30th anniversary. Mobile Fighter G Gundam, much like Ghost in the Shell 2, was kind of this black sheep that didn't get a lot of love when it came out. In fact, it was kind of seen as like scorched earth for the Gundam franchise. Gundam, of course, is pretty much like the biggest mecha series that's out there, but when people think of Gundam, it's usually this kind of like dour space war with heavy politics going on, and what G Gundam did is kind of reinvented what a Gundam series can be. It's like a Technicolor Saturday morning energy battle shonen series. So what it does is it centers on this tournament called the Gundam Fight. It's held once every 4 years. Each country submits a Gundam representative, they fight in combat, and the winner gets to run all the other colonies for the next 4 years. So it takes like the space war element of Gundam and turns it into this like silly, campy, very campy Gundam tournament. That's a very weird change of pace for the series, and people really didn't like it when it came out, but like I said, without this show, we wouldn't get the modern take on Gundam. Like, G Gundam showed people that Gundam doesn't need to be stuck in this tiny box, that it can be different things, that it can inspire other creators to be like, well, I like mecha material, but I don't want to do like the typical Gundam thing. And it showed them that there can be something different. Up until G Gundam, every Gundam series had been in the Universal Century timeline, which is cool. I mean, there's a bunch of Gundam fans that are like Universal Century purists that only like those shows. But the problem you get is that like you reach a point where there's not any more you can do in that timeline without kind of retconning stuff from the past or overwriting it. G Gundam starts a new timeline, and it's no coincidence that the series that follow G Gundam are Gundam Wing, After War Gundam X, Turn A Gundam. These are all very pivotal series, and without G Gundam, you wouldn't have something like Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt, you wouldn't have Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury. These are exciting series, and it's cool that G Gundam helped make that possible and helped reinvent how we view the Gundam franchise. And so this show, it kind of found a second life on Toonami. It eventually like aired on Toonami, but it's still been this black sheep of the series, even though it has some of like the most creative Gundam designs. Like, they're really silly, almost like borderline offensive stereotypes, but they feel very lighthearted at the same time. Like, Canada's Gundam is the Lumber Gundam, which is this lumberjack. Mexico's Gundam is the Tequila Gundam, which is insane. Holland has this like windmill Gundam. They're all such wild designs. There's like a Sailor Moon Gundam that does these like magical girl transformations even. The Hero Gundam and Villain Gundam are the God Gundam and Devil Gundam. It really just has fun with what a Gundam design is and like takes some big risks, and it's just so silly, fun. I like it a lot, but even if you don't think G Gundam is successful, like I said, the things that it opened up for the franchise are pivotal. And now that G Gundam is turning 30, they've announced like a sequel, albeit in like a novel. It's a G Gundam novel, but it's just kind of cool that this property that was seen as untouchable and something that Gundam wanted to forget is now getting extensions, and it's, you know, not impossible now that G Gundam could get an anime sequel down the road too. So once again, it's just cool that like G Gundam is getting this second life, that after 30 years we can kind of see it with a fresh set of eyes, and that more people are appreciating it. And you know, there's a younger generation that like G Gundam is their favorite show. So much like Ghost in the Shell 2, it's cool when this kind of product that people didn't like can now be seen with the context of hindsight and just help take it to new places. So yeah, G Gundam turning 30, and it's never been more popular in my opinion.